bringing you competition between the finest bowlers in the world. It's a professional bowlers tour. Live and in color from the Riviera Lanes in Akron, Ohio, ABC Sports brings you the exciting final rounds of the $100,000 Firestone Tournament of Champions. The Tournament of Champions was started in 1965, and here are the previous winners, all great names. The leadoff winner was Bill Hardwick. Then in '66, Wayne Zahn, Jim Stefanich in 1967. And just 1 year ago, it was Dave Davis who won the $25,000 first prize. Who will it be today? We have 5 great champions in the finals. I'm Chris Schenkel, welcoming you to the richest bowling tournament ever, the Firestone Tournament of Champions. It's nice to be back in one of the sports capitals of the world, Akron, Ohio, and I know that our 5 finalists are anxious to go for that $25,000, and we'd like for you to meet them. First of all, in the number 5 position, from Kokomo, Indiana, Don Johnson, runner-up for the last 2 years, and in a brilliant career has won 6 PBA championships. In the number 4 position, from Phoenix, Arizona, Wayne Zahn, national champion in 1966 and winner here 3 years ago. The number 3 bowler is Jim Stefanich from Joliet, Illinois, the bowler of the year, winning 6 championships alone in 1968. In the number 2 spot is Dave Sutar, a former Detroiter, now bowling out of Gilroy, California, winner of 4 PBA titles and the former national champion. And the tournament leaders, who last night won all of his games, averaging .224, Jim Godman of Hayward, California. And, of course, here's a man that has won all the championships that you can think of. He's from Houston, Texas, and here in this tournament, he did make the finals, and he finished 13th. My colleague, Billy Whalo. Billy?
Thank you very much, Chris. It was great to be competing with them, and this is it. Truly, this is it. The classic event on the Pro Bowlers Tour, the one they've been waiting for. Everyone in this tournament was a champion, earning his right to be here along the tour somewhere in past championships. It's been a grueling battle, 5 days to reach this point. They've played 48 match games, 48 qualifying games, so you can see the bowlers have really been working hard. $25,000 first place, $12,500 for second. So there's a lot of pressure, Chris, and there'll be a lot of pressure here this afternoon.
That's right, Billy, and you go down the list to the number 5th position and totaling all the prize money for these gentlemen this afternoon, live and in color, it's $50,000.
A lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure on all of us. The finalists are all set, ladies and gentlemen, for the $100,000 Firestone Tournament of Champions, with Jim Godman in the top position. Of course, he's the man to beat this afternoon. Again, here's how the final rounds are set for today's exciting competition. Wayne Zahn and Don Johnson are 4th and 5th ranked bowlers here in Akron in the tournament thus far. Will meet in the very first game. The winner of this match will then attempt to bowl his way past Jim Stefanich in 3rd place, Dave Sutar in 2nd place, and then, finally, meet the tournament leader, Jim Godman, for the $25,000. So it's a big afternoon on ABC Sports. This show to be followed by Wide World of Sports. And, of course, we'll tell you about tomorrow, another exciting day. But right now, our ABC color camera is focused on the Kokomo kid, Don Johnson. He'll stroke first. Bowling Billy on the left lane, this pair at the Riviera Lanes.
Yes, Chris, and I'm sure a favorite now that he's married a local Akron girl. They'll all be pulling for Don.
Well, he got all but one. Don Johnson with very much a tension or pressure stroke, because this is a capacity crowd here at the Riviera Lanes, and with all the money at stake, you can imagine how nervous it must be to hold that 16-pound ball and then deliver it properly. So now he'll try to cover the 4-pin. He does it. So it's a spare for Don Johnson in the very first frame. And as we mentioned, he is going against Wayne Zahn, who set a money-winning record in 1966 of nearly $55,000. It's a strike for Zahn, former Tournament of Champions winner here in Akron, Ohio.
an interesting angle, Chris, that they are playing. It must be kept between what we call the second arrow and the third arrow. They are placed on the 10th and 15th board, somewhere around 10 or 11 or 12th board.
Here's Zahn now trying to double. This is the first of 4 games, live and in color. Wayne Zahn with 2 big ones. And he immediately takes a 10-pin lead. Tomorrow at 1:55 Eastern Standard Time on ABC television. First game in the best of 7 in the final series in the Eastern Division of the NBA from Madison Square Garden, the New York Knickerbockers and the Boston Celtics. Don Johnson with a strike in the second frame.
Powerful strike, Chris.
We indicated earlier that Don had won 6 PBA titles, including one in Japan in 1968. Runner-up the past 2 years here, and that alone is quite a credential, Billy. That come up a little high, Billy?
Yes, it did, Chris. The ball is breaking more for him on the left lane. Watch as the ball goes through very sharply. A lot of times here you get a split. It gets a lucky break pushing out the right-hand side. For Don, it has been heartbreak here, actually, even though he's done well financially. Been 2 solid 7 pins that have cost him the championships.
And there he got rid of that pesky old pin, Billy, giving him 40 through the second with a spare up. Now Wayne Zahn, who's been perfect thus far, will be shooting in the third frame. Still alive for $10,000 and a Mercury Cougar.
Chris, on the left, as he puts the ball into motion, you can see what timing and coordination means. For Wayne Zahn, it means a high backswing. On the right now, the knees are bent. Watch as he gets that great reach.
Now working on a 4-bagger. In a row, ladies and gentlemen. And that applies the pressure on Don Johnson. Trailing by 30 now. He opened with a spare, then a strike, a spare in the third. Let's watch him in the fourth frame. And the reaction of the crowd told you the story.
Yes, Chris, that's the widest of the splits and the most difficult to make. We call it impossible because you can't get enough angle to slide it over. It is often made by bouncing the pin out. I'm sure Don will hope for that.
So for Don Johnson of Kokomo, Indiana, here in the very first game of the Tournament of Champions Finals, he is trailing by 43 pins.
Chris, we often talk about a pin bouncing out. There were several times in this tournament when spares of the impossible variety were made. Don Glover made a 7-9 bouncing it out. There was a 4-6 made.
And so often we see these champions bounce back following an opening frame as Johnson did. A 43-pin difference with Zahn in the lead. In the very first game, Wayne Zahn, with 4 strikes in a row, is in the lead over Don Johnson. by 43 pins. And now for 5 straight. Seven to go.
It all started here for Wayne Zahn, too, Chris, back in 1966, winning this tournament, the Firestone Tournament of Champions. He went on from there to set a money-winning record, and since then, he has performed as he never did before.
His father is in from Tempe, Arizona, where they have a bowling establishment.
Yes, the Wayne Zahn Bowl, and they hosted the Valley of the Sun Open there back in January.
Let's see why the 10-pin didn't go.
Right, Chris. He was very pleased when you round the ball too much here. I mean, started too far to the right and hope for the hook back. Watch the deflection. It goes to the right because the ball was coming back from too wide an angle. There were many of this 8-10 split left in the tournament. Here he's very happy that the 8 went out, only left the 10.
Wayne Zahn checking near the foul line, apparently sticking just a little bit ahead of it, of course. As Don Johnson now has a strike up in the 5th frame and trailing by 52. He needs to string them. Little good fortune there, leaving only the 6-10.
Chris, he's going awful direct. We talk about between the 2nd and 3rd arrow. As he puts the ball into motion on the left, notice the full-length arm swing. On the right, notice again that key position, but it's too direct right at that point. The track area is breaking very sharply, Chris, and if you enter it a little too soon, a little too direct, the ball will go to your left of the pocket.
All right, Billy. If you just joined us, this is the first game, the halfway point, our final stop on the PBA Tour and series of telecasts of 13. The 4-pin.
Chris, he used a little more speed that time trying to hold the track area, where Wayne Zahn is giving it a little bit more angle to the right and is a little more successful.
Don Johnson, 106 through the 6th, spare up. And now Wayne Zahn, who opened with 5 in a row, marked with a spare in the 6th, leaving a 10-pin, shooting in the 7th.
Chris, that'd be an interesting hit to see there as the ball goes through and carries the 5 like that, hitting light on the head pin. It's the mixing action we often talk about, the revolution, the right-to-left motion. If that ball did not have that then, as the ball goes into the pocket, now watch, just barely catches that 5-pin, and that's what knocks it out at the last minute.
Wayne's on. Verzon, it's another strike. This one coming in the 8th frame and giving him a 63-pin lead on our live color telecast from the Riviera Lanes in Akron. Don Johnson and Wayne Zahn are meeting the first game. Johnson leaving a 4-pin, going into the 8th frame, trailing by 63. Now, of course, 64. Because Wayne Zahn strung 5. Marked with a spare, and then doubled.
Tough position to be in, Chris. You know, a one-game match to fall behind that quickly when you compete all week to reach for a chance for glory and for that much money, then despair sets in so quickly when you get that far behind. But certainly a great champion, one of the great young players that have come up today of this, well, you can't hardly say new breed.
A 10-10 for the young Hoosier who was born in 1940.
That's why I say you can't quite say new breed flying to this man, because he's been out here a few years already, where the tournament leader, Jim Godman, is only 23 years old.
He sort of adopted him in Akron, having married a native of Akron, Mary Ann. But I don't think Kokomo, Billy's going to give him up. Wonderful boy. So is Wayne Zahn. Born in Milwaukee, rolled out of Atlanta for a while. Now it's Tempe, Arizona.
There's the difference. The previous strike on the right lane in the 7th frame, he had a little more finish on the ball. It rolled off the fingers last.
And, of course, as a result of a super game, the first game, Wayne Zahn has locked it up, and that means after a bit, he'll be going against the bowler of the year, Jim Stefanich. You know, this afternoon, and we'll be following our professional bowlers tour telecast over most of these stations at 5 Eastern, 4 Central. It'll be the Atlanta 500 stock car race. The nation's leading stock car drivers, including Leroy Yarborough, Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough, they'll be competing at the Atlanta Super Speedway. On Wide World, the World Ice Dancing Championships from Colorado Springs. Colorful, beautiful. Also today, the National Platform Tennis Championships from Scarsdale. The doubles competition, a sport never before seen on Wide World of Sports. That's later, immediately following Pro Bowlers Tour. The all-time leading money winners in the history of the PBA, you see Weber is first, our statistician Harry Smith second, Billy Hardwick, and then Zahn in 4th, Davis 5th. And Wayne Zahn, by virtue of locking up the first game, will move a step closer to the $25,000 first prize.
And if he does win that first prize, Chris, he could move into 2nd on the all-time money-winning list with over $200,000.
Which is liable to make Harry Smith angry enough to come back and win several tournaments. Well, there is Jim Stefanich, who will be Zahn's opponent. You can imagine what he's thinking. Zahn having bowled a sizzling 258. Wayne Zahn, a 258. 9 strikes in the process. Make it 10. Couple of spares. And for the first time in this game, Don Johnson comes up with a double. As we indicated, Wayne Zahn will be going against Jim Stefanich. The winner of that match then goes against Dave Sutar in the semifinal. That victor will go against Jim Godman for the top prize. So for Wayne Zahn, it's a 258. For Don Johnson, a 193. Wayne Zahn moves a step closer to the first prize of $25,000 as he faces Jim Stefanich from Joliet, Illinois. We'll see the start of the action in just a moment.
Turkey. Whether you're there on leave or on a tour of duty, don't miss Istanbul. See the sights like James Nielsen did. Nielsen visited the famous Byzantine Hagia Sophia, saw the Seraglio of Sultans, and enjoyed the Bosporus Garden. Nielsen found the pocket guide a big help. And he found another big help was knowing how to speak Turkish.
Good day, sir. Günaydin beyefendi.
Günaydın efendim.
Lütfen bana çarşıya tarif eder misiniz?
Ne satın almak istiyorsunuz?
Kız arkadaşım için bir hediye. Belki bir Türk halısı veya mücevher.
Evet. Galata Köprüsü karşısındaki Mısır Çarşısı'na gitmeniz lazım.
Enteresan bir yer.
Siz Amerikalısınız değil mi?
Evet, burada Türkiye'de vazifliyim.
Çok güzel Türkçe konuşuyorsunuz.
Teşekkür ederim efendim. Yardımınıza çok teşekkürler.
Learn the language of the country where your tour of duty takes you or where you might spend your leave. It can make your stay a lot more fun. There's plenty of opportunity to learn foreign languages in your branch of the service through foreign language laboratories, correspondence courses, or group studies. Your education officer can give you complete information on foreign language instruction.
The Riviera Lanes are located in Akron, Ohio, actually a suburb, Fairlawn, Ohio. And again, for the 5th straight year, it's the scene of the Tournament of Champions, the $100,000 Tournament of Champions. Wayne Zahn in the first game, defeating Don Johnson 253 to 193. Now goes against Jim Stefanich. He had 10 strikes in the first game, and here in the second has hit the pocket.
He looks very strong, Chris. This has been a very good pair for him throughout the tournament, and he looks strong on the pair today. They're going to have to beat him.
Here's the bowler of the year, Jim Stefanich. A 4-pin for Stefanich. Fine golfer, in addition to being a super bowler. He broke Zahn's earning records, picking up $67,375 last year.
Chris, I was going to say, very pointedly so, it's something that I'm sure our viewers have observed as the prize monies have increased in recent years. These fellows in the last 4 or 5 years have kind of vaulted toward the top in the all-time money winnings, where years ago we weren't so fortunate.
Now Zahn is watching Jim Stefanich, casually, that is. A Stefanich strike. Up steps Wayne Zahn. Opened with a strike. Two in a row. Taking a 10-pin lead as the result of the double. The winner of this game will go against Dave Sutar. And then the final match with Jim Godman of Hayward, California, waiting for either Zahn, Stefanich, or Sutar. Three in a row.
Chris, we often talk about the right speed, the right lift. There was a perfect example of the tender touch. Watch as the ball goes into the 1-3 pocket. That is the entering area at this point. It deflects, but it has just enough roll and not too much speed where the 6 just barely touches the 10.
And now Stefanich hoping to double. And as you're watching, I'm sure you were thinking that he had better double the way Zahn is bowling. 10 strikes in the first game. 3 here in as many frames. And Stefanich opened with a spare, now with a double up, shooting in the 4th. Second 4-pin on that left lane for Stefanich. if you just joined us here in Akron, Ohio, Wayne Zahn defeated Don Johnson 258 to 193 in the first game. And now, in the second game, he's been perfect in 3 frames. He has an 11-pin lead over Jim Stefanich. Zahn, solid 10.
Chris, in deference to the earlier speed where the 6 just kicked out the 10, watch this time as the 6 goes completely around it. Perfect.
Zahn marking with a spare here in the second game in our Tournament of Champions. 12 stops. This is the 13th and final, Billy.
Yes, Chris, it's certainly been a pleasure, as it always is every year, working the tour. It's been a very exciting thing for me to be in the game and to still be up here on Saturday talking about the players. It's very exciting.
Okay, Billy. So it's the 4th strike and 5 frames for Wayne Zahn. He is leading by 10 pins. Wayne Zahn, Billy, with his 16-pound bowling ball.
And Chris, there you see him. What he is doing, he is putting in a strip of tape. Sometimes your thumb will go up or down, and they use tape to govern the size of the hole.
All right. Jim Stefanich of Joliet, Illinois, striking in the 5th frame, 89 through the 4th. Trying to stay close to Wayne Zahn, who had 10 strikes in the first game. He has 4 in the second game in 5 frames. There's Zahn. Looking for a double. And with the double, level, as they would say in Great Britain and Scotland, Billy, in golf, a tie. Speaking of golf, this is the bowling Tournament of Champions. Similar format we've enjoyed for several years is the Tournament of Champions in golf, this year to be held at La Costa Country Club, north of San Diego. It'll be on the air 2 weeks from today and tomorrow. Then to be followed by the Byron Nelson Golf Classic from Dallas, Texas. All-time great Don Carter, next to the Dean of Bowling Writers, Joe Richards. For Wayne Zahn, 119 through the 5th frame. If he gets ready to shoot in the 7th, he'll be working on a spare. Close second match, Billy.
Can't get them any closer than that, Chris, and that's why count, we often mention, is so important, so valuable. It's not only the spares that you make, it's the pins that you get on that first ball if you don't strike.
All right. Another strike for hot Wayne Zahn, with Stefanich now coming up. You remember, he can go ahead with a strike here because he has a double working. $25,000 to the winner of this tournament this afternoon, 12.5 second, 6,500 third, 3,500 fourth, and 2,500 fifth, which Don Johnson has won. Stefanich, his third 4-pin, first on the right lane.
Chris is using that good speed. Started the ball inside of his line, so the ball is going to be a little high at the target area. leaving the 4-pin, and he doesn't get the 2 coming back because he had it very high on the 1-pin.
Marking with a spare in the 7th frame. As a result, trailing by 1. Here's some pins dropping on your television sets. That's Dave Sutar warming up, waiting to meet the winner of the 2nd game.
He's got great composure here at address.
A strike. Jim Stefanich in the 8th frame. 1 pin separating those 2 bowlers that you're looking at right now. Back again at the Riviera Lanes in Akron, Ohio. This is the Tournament of Champions, hosted by the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company. Great excitement here. 1 pin separating Wayne Zahn and Jim Stefanich. This is Zahn. It's a double for Zahn. And we mentioned Firestone. This great company's president underwent surgery here in Akron yesterday. We're pleased to report that it's satisfactory. He's an Akron general, Mr. Earl Hathaway. And, Billy, we both better caution or admonish Mr. Hathaway not to get too excited, but enjoy the event.
I think the most exciting thing was he said he's got to be there by 3:30 today.
Mm-hmm.
Real bowling fan. And there's a real bowler, Chris.
3 in a row for Wayne Zahn. 10 strikes in his first game against Don Johnson, rolling a 258. He has 7 thus far in this 2nd game. Stefanich with a strike up.
Chris, he got great carry on that particular shot, having a little trouble there with the 4-pin on that lane. He gave that ball a little bit more room to the right, and the carry was suspect, but that 6 carried that pin right out.
And with the double, it decreases Zahn's lead to 11 pins. And Billy, 10th frame, always important, but particularly here.
Yes, Chris. He has a possible 248 if he can strike out. The main thing is that Wayne Zahn is rolling along at a 230 clip, and this is the big ball because it would put Jim Stefanich in the 230s and force Wayne Zahn to mark. Came through very beautifully, Chris. Now if he gets 1 more, he forces Wayne Zahn then to strike on his first ball in the 10th.
Case of a tie. We have a 2-frame roll-off.
There you see 1 lone pin. We again refer to count. Now, if Jim doesn't strike on this ball, the count that he does get will be important because that will influence what Wayne Zahn has to do.
Here it is. A 10-pin for Stefanich, former winner of the Tournament of Champions right here in Akron, Ohio, Bowler of the Year last year. And during that year, he won 6 PBA championships. Fabulous. A booming 237 for Jim Stefanich. However,
Chris, we speak of count. Now, Wayne Zahn not only needs to mark, he needs to count. There you see it. 2 pins to play with. If he gets 8 on this ball, that means he has to spare and strike to tie. So he must either strike or get 9 on this ball. Chris, I have to comment, he was very lucky. He certainly didn't want to attack the pocket. in playing the ball straight and not trying to lift it too hard. He didn't get very much lift at all, and that ball sailed, hitting that head pin light. He got very good pin action. He needs to pick up this pin and then strike for a one-pin victory.
All right. This is the second game. Semifinal coming up, and then the final. Now the big shot, Billy. Big shot indeed. Because if you don't win this game, you have to settle for $3,500. If you could keep going, you have a chance to win $25,000.
Christian, pressure is really on Wayne here. He's made many strikes this week and many in his career. But to advance, none would be more important than this shot right here. He needs a strike.
Well, he will have enough to buy dinner. The dinner bucket was left. The bucket.
Chris, he sailed it too much to the right again. And, of course, that far to the right, you don't get the mixing pin action. So it's a tough break for Wayne. Jim Stefanich the winner.
Wayne Zahn, who opened with a 258 in the first game, bowls a 234. He loses by 3 pins to Jim Stefanich, who moves up to meet Dave Sutar in the third round of the $100,000 Firestone Tournament of Champions. Live and in color. And Billy bowling 2 games, averaging 241, and not continuing in the finals is sheer disappointment.
I'm sure Wayne Zahn is very disheartened, Chris.
Here's last year's Bowler of the Year, Jim Stefanich from Joliet, Illinois, who in the first frame has left the 10-pin. 237 to 234, going right down to the final stroke. Standing room only here at the Riviera Lanes. And there might be a few that are not going to get too good a view here of Dave Sutar. But you at home, watching our ABC telecast, have the best seat in the house. Sutar, Detroiter, bowling out of Gilroy, California, leaves the 7-pin. He finished second in the overall tournament, coming into the finals behind the tournament leader, Jim Godman. And 29-year-old Sutar won the national championship in 1961. Evens up the match with a spare.
Chris, in Wayne Zahn's 2 final shots and Dave Sutar's first one, it points out the thing that we mentioned that you cannot do here, and that is go around. Go to the right of that track and try to hope to hook back into it. The ball just won't come back.
Sutar striking in the second frame. Now it's Stefanich, who won by 3 pins on the final ball. That ball being rolled, however, by Wayne Zahn, his opponent, 237 to 234. He has a spare up, shooting in the second.
Chris, Jim has excellent footwork, a very deliberate, tight player. At this point, that's a natural move for Jim that lets him keep his balance. The main thing is that there's coordination, and at this point, the foot comes forward to his left underneath him to support his body weight balance.
Okay, Billy. Now Stefanich, bowling here in the third game on our live color telecast, has the 4-10. Can he convert it, Billy?
Yes, he can, Chris. He has to go to the left of the 4, try to slide the 4 across the lane into the 10. Gave it a good go.
Giving Stefanich 48 through the third. Sutar now leads by 12 pins. Strike up, shooting in the third. Back-to-back splits.
Chris, again, there is going around. Earlier, Wayne Zahn just kicked out the 8. There as the ball deflected to the right. The speed was so quick that he didn't get a chance to get the full carry on the 8 or the 10.
Dave Sutar, like Stefanich, opening in the third, and the match, as you see, all even.
Got a great break there, Chris.
Sutar striking in the fourth after an open. Now Stefanich in the fourth. Four pin for Stefanich.
Chris, on that shot, you might have noticed that he had a considerable amount of loft, more than in his previous frame. When he came up with that 4-10 split, he was a little slower. That time he went to a little more speed and a little more loft. But in the loft, he got lift, which made that ball move from right to left, and there you see the 4-pin.
Jim Stefanich bowling his second game of our telecast, having defeated Wayne Zahn 237 to 234. Zahn won his first game over Don Johnson 258 to 193. The winner of this game goes into the finals against Jim Godman. Difference of 19,000 possibility of winning or losing this game. Dave Sutar, all even. Sutar has a strike up in the fourth. It's a big double for Dave. The winner goes into the final.
Played a little tighter line, but he had great leverage in that shot, Chris. You notice Dave Sutar positions the ball slightly to his right. This puts it out beside his body so that when he drops it into motion, he is in a swinging line beside of his body, a pendulum swing, free from arcing behind his back.
Sixth frame action. Three in a row for Dave Sutar. Increasing his lead to 20 pins. Now Stefanich has a strike up, shooting in the sixth. Today, 25,000 the winner, 12,005 second, 6,500 third. Stefanich with a double.
Great testimonial to the man, Chris. Under the pressure, Sutar put it on him, made 3 in a row, put him 20 down. The man coolly, where he lofted the ball before, got a free, smooth release and maintained his line.
And like Sutar, 3 in a row, and we are all even. The loser of this game, this very game, will get $6,500. But the winner has a chance to go against Jim Godman in the final and win 25 grand. Gulp.
Little get together for 6,000.
Dave Sutar, 4 in a row.
Dave Sutar's saying, I won more.
At least for the moment, he has a 10-pin lead. Speaking of pressure and rising to it, the two teams that we cover tomorrow from Madison Square Garden, Billy, the Boston Celtics, the veterans, and the New York Knickerbockers, who shut out the Eastern Division leading Baltimore Bullets in 4 games. They meet. We televise them at 1:55 Eastern Time. It's a 4-pin for Sutar. Make it 7. Excuse me.
Chris, the fever in the playoff series is beginning to build, as it is here in the playoffs. With each succeeding match, more money is involved.
Dave Sutar marking with a spare, and he has only a 9-pin lead. Jim Stefanich and Dave Sutar meeting in the semifinals of the $100,000 Tournament of Champions in Akron. Stefanich trailing by 9 pins can change that with a strike here. It's working on a 3-bagger.
And Chris, there is the problem that Don Johnson had the last 2 years, the solid 7. Now watch as this pin goes right around the 7. The 4-pin falls directly in front of it. Solid hit, the impact there, it's just got to be the good Lord's will. It's tough luck.
Fierce competitor, Jim Stefanich, born in 1941. His wife, Olive, is here watching the match. Perfect.
Chris, after a tough break like the solid 7, to come back and just hang right in there, that's the mark of a true champion. And, of course, that was a big ball for Stefanich going into the final frame.
48 champions started in this tournament. And now it is down to only 3. These two and Jim Godman.
Chris, he got great carry on that ball. He's continued to play a little more hook on that right lane. The right lane is hooking a little bit more, and he's playing it, but now with that great leverage that 6 is coming off the wall and hitting the 10.
Match is sort of like in golf, that in golf you'd be lining up a crucial putt every stroke. Wow.
And this is a crucial stroke for Dave Sutar. With only a 10-pin lead, a strike here would put the pressure on Stefanich.
And then things like that happen when you bowl.
Christie was a little too careful with that shot, and as a result, the speed was slower. He didn't have the leverage in the shot. The ball broke very sharply. Now, that's the 4, 7, 9, 10. As you see it, you must go to the left. Try to slide the 4 cross into the 9 and the 10. Very difficult spare, but he must have it.
Missing that 4-pin, carrying out the 7.
Chris, by opening, and what a horrendous open it was. It opened the door for Jim Stefanich. Now, Jim Stefanich needs a mark, and with 6 pins, count is not important.
Jim Stefanich doing his very first game this afternoon, went against red-hot Wayne Zahn. Stefanich winning it 237 to 234. Now against Dave Sutar, who had an open in the 10th frame, bowling a 201, and Stefanich has a chance for 25,000. There's your winner. His opponent in the next game will be Jim Godman from Hayward, California. Youngest of our bowlers. There he is, 23 years old. All of them under 30. All 5.
Chris, look up at that leaderboard. 20-year-olds, I'll tell you what, it really makes you know the young lions are here.
So for Stefanich, he adds a 227, but more important, a 26-pin victory over Dave Sutar. So the story of the $100,000 Firestone Tournament of Champions is almost history. Jim Stefanich gets set to meet Jim Godman from Hayward, California. At stake, the championship and $25,000. We'll be back in a moment.
The men and women who represent you in the federal government, fellow citizens from your home state, are called congressmen, and have been since 1789. They're either senators or representatives, and they work in Washington, District of Columbia. The function of the Congress is to keep up with the changing needs of the United States and make laws which meet these needs. The job of the President of the United States is to put those laws into practice and to administer the government's business. Sometimes in the performance of these duties, the President and the Congress compete. Look at George Washington. He attended a Senate committee meeting to push a treaty. The senators sat in stony silence. Treaties were their job. Washington sat there several hours before the message got through to him. Then he stalked out, vowing never to return to the Senate. The senators had the Constitution on their side. There is a safeguard in the Constitution which prevents one branch of the government from trying to usurp any power from the other 2 branches, and that is the system of checks and balances. It's based on the separation of power among legislative, executive, and judicial branches of the government. The system of checks and balances is a feature unique to our government and without exact parallel in the history of any government in the world. Yeah, it's all spelled out in the Constitution.
We have the big match now of the Tournament of Champions, the finals. And you can see that Wayne Zahn defeated Don Johnson. It was 258 to 193. Then Zahn was edged out by Stefanich, 237 to 234. Stefanich coming back with a 26-pin victory over Dave Sutar, 227 to 201. He leads off here now against the tournament leader, Jim Godman of Hayward, California. There's a difference of 12,500, winning or losing.
Be an interesting match, Chris. Jim Stefanich, free swinger, pendulum arm motion from the shoulder. Jim Godman has one of the shortest backswings in bowling. Very powerful man, very powerful upper torso, forearms and shoulders. Very short backswing, and he sort of powers the ball through the release area.
Solid, powerful, and perfect.
Chris, as he puts the ball into motion, there you see the body motion going forward. And at that point, you see an angle, 180 degrees, the full-length arm swing right from the shoulder, fully extended with the bend of the back. And here's the trigger position where he powers it forward, gets that long reach.
Now live and again in color. A booming double for the tournament leader, Jim Godman. Going right to that pocket quickly, taking a 10-pin lead. 23-year-old Jim Godman going against the bowler of the year, Stefanich. He has a strike up. Four pin for Stefanich.
Chrissy's had a little trouble with this right lane, leaving the 4. When he doesn't get that loft, the ball will finish a little too soon for him. There's one thing about it, though. That's not a very difficult spare when you're going that straight.
Now Stefanich moves to the left lane. He has 2 victories under his belt, while the tournament leader's been waiting all this time to get into the final. Winner gets $25,000. The loser, $12,500. Another.
Chrissy's a little slow. In being slow, the ball bites the lane, gets a little more revolution too soon, and there you see it finishing very sharply through. As it does this, he gets a different angle off the 2 pin, and it goes around the 4.
And now stepping up, Jim Godman, who has won 3 PBA titles, never the Firestone Tournament of Champions. The 6-footer is a double working for him, now shooting in the 3rd. Three in a row. Jim Godman, who last year earned $21,125, has a chance here this afternoon to win $25,000 in 1 game.
And Chris, there you see, registers great pleasure with that shot. He got to the line very quickly. He's attacking. He's a very great reacting type fellow. The adrenaline is flowing. Getting there ahead of the ball, he strong-armed it through, and with good roll, hit light and mixed them up.
Sporting News Rookie of the Year, 1965. Four in a row. And with 4 in a row, Jim Godman, at whom you're looking, takes a 31-pin lead. Hope you're enjoying the action from the Riviera Lanes. That goes in particular to the executive director of the PBA, Eddie Elias's pop, who's recuperating from illness in Florida, George Elias. And Stefanich now with a strike in the 4th. He opened with a strike, then marked with 2 spares.
Even though he's only down by 31, Chris, you can't count him out. He's been near perfect as far as accuracy. He's been around the pocket almost every shot.
Leaving the 4-7 on the left lane.
Ball finishing very sharply again, Chris. Watch, as the ball catches too much of the number 1 pin, finish very sharply, you see the 2 pin go into action. It's in flight right there, around the 4-7.
So 31 pins separating Stefanich and Godman, and this is the championship match. The tournament leader, Jim Godman, in this final match worth $25,000, has been perfect with 4 straight strikes. Now shooting in the 5th, bowling against Jim Stefanich. Still alive for the 10,000 for a perfect game and a Mercury Cougar.
Chris, when you talk about raw power, there you see it. Strong young man. I can't tell you how strong he is. While in weight, he's not one of the heaviest players on the tour. He is just powerfully built. And being a wiry type of individual, it shows in his bowling. As you can see, down on his knees, running them out.
What a performance here in the climax of the PBA's Winter Tour. Jim Godman, count 'em, 6 in a row, reaching the halfway point of a perfect game.
And we did have a perfect game here this week, Chris. Earl Johnson from Minneapolis bowled a perfect game. 300 game in the qualifying round.
Stefanich striking in the 6th. He had a spare working for him, giving him 99 through the 5th. Stefanich, who in tournament play finished 3rd, defeated Wayne Zahn, and then came back with a victory over Dave Sutar to get into the finals against the tournament leader, Jim Godman.
This is a must strike, Chris.
Comes through with his double, Stefanich. In our competition today of the 5 finalists, there were 2 that had won tournaments of champions. That was Wayne Zahn and Stefanich. 23-year-old Jim Godman looking for his first TFC win. He has 6 strikes up. Now 7.
Got the great touch, Chris. That time he was much straighter, but instead of powering it through the release area, just came straight up with it, and the ball held a very tight line in the track. That's the modern-day shot we often talk about.
Well, you heard the murmurs now. Silence.
His emotion pretty well told the story of that shot, Chris. Excellent accuracy. With the power that he uses in the shot, he's subject to that type of pin carry. That 6 went right over the 10.
Now for his first spare. Getting his spares, we look at the top 16. Mike Lemongello at that position.
Barry Asher.
Ralph Engen, and in 13th, Billy Whaley.
Thank you, Chris.
$1,350 richer.
Don Glover, the only left-hander to make the finals, our top 16. Johnny Gunther, Gene Rhoda,
Nelson Burton Jr. in 9th.
Jim St. John,
Tommy Tuttle. Dick Weber, the alternate here today, Don Johnson, who finished 5th, losing his first match to Wayne Zahn. Zahn finishing 4th today. Sutar 3rd. And now in the final match, it's Stefanich, who has a double working for him. Make it 3 in a row, trailing by 40.
and he must make it 4, Chris, for Jim Stefanich to have a chance. He must make this strike.
Any difference in the speed of that stroke, or the ball, rather?
You're very observant, Chris. He certainly was. It's very slow, and the ball broke very sharp. Made it move from right to left. There you see it. Heading too much of the number 1 pin. Going through too sharp, and actually not getting a pocket carry.
We hope you're enjoying our final game from the Riviera Lanes for the championship and $25,000. Our final telecast in a series of 13. Billy is, I complete my 8th year. I'm going to miss you throughout the summer, but I have a feeling we'll find you in some of our golf telecasts as you're a great pasture pool man yourself. And Jim Godman now, leaving the 610.
Yes, Chris, I'm looking forward to being with you and Byron Nelson in Dallas.
Made sure.
Now he can afford a foul, an open, anything. Just stay in the building.
He'd have some trouble finding room in some parts of it, though, Billy, because we have just hundreds of people here watching.
Well, the crowd knows that he has victory in his grasp, and they're all pretty loose now. The pressure is off since he's not having a chance for the 300. And the thunderous roar, victory is assured. There's your winner, the Tournament of Champions.
As we indicated earlier, last year, a lot of bowling. You earned $21,125. And right here this afternoon, competing, of course, Friday and Thursday, and Wednesday, has made $25,000 at 23 years of age.
Chris, it's a great story. I would like to tell you now about this young man since he has victory. He came out on the tour with his wife, Sandy. They had their savings, and he said he was going to stay out as long as their savings would last. He won a couple of tournaments, but he didn't maintain enough winnings to stay out on the tour, and he went back home. He arranged a backer in the East who's put him back on the tour. And this is the story of Jim Godman. Otherwise, he wouldn't be back here. Right. Sam Merchant is here, his backer, and I know he's very happy.
There is a booming 266 for the Tournament of Champions winner, the 5th TFC champion, Jim Godman. Look at that. Jim Stephanie completing this championship game from the Riviera Lanes. Jim Stefanich completing the game now. This being our final telecast, our thanks always go to Frank Esposito, Harry Golden, Chuck Fitt, Bud Fisher, the PBA, who do such a tremendous job. And, of course, to our statistician, champion Harry Smith. Well, we hope you enjoyed the Tournament of Champions, ladies and gentlemen. I know the tremendous crowd here at Riviera Lanes will be watching. And I think you'd like to, once again, re-meet the 5 finalists in this, the greatest of bowling tournaments. First of all, my fellow Hoosier, who finished 5th, Mr. Don Johnson from Kokomo. Don?
Thank you, Chris. Nice to be back in Firestone land again.
Well, you runner-up 2 years in a row. The $2,500 is a little less than $12,500, but I know you'll accept it.
I sure will, Chris.
Nice going.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and now for $3,500, we all felt for him today, bowling out of Tempe, Arizona, and because you had such tough luck today, I'm going to plug your bowling lanes once more.
Thank you.
Wayne Zahn, ladies and gentlemen. $3,500, Wayne.
Thank you, Chris. I'd like to thank the Firestone people, and especially for ABC for having us back for next year. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, aren't you nice?
Thank you.
Look forward to it. Wayne Zahn, and now bowling out of Gilroy, California, a man that earned $6,500 today, Tall Dave Sustar. Nice going, Dave.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
We hope to see you again next year, and I'm sure you'll be back.
I hope so. I'd like to thank Firestone for putting on this tournament, and I'd also like to say hello to Mr. Hathaway.
Yes, Mr. Hathaway being the president of Firestone, recuperating in the hospital following successful surgery. Now, for Jim Stefanich, $12,500, former winner, runner-up this year, Jim.
Thank you, Chris. I'm glad to be here. I want to congratulate Jim. He bowled great. He deserved to win the tournament. That's the way I feel. And I'm just happy I'm second place this week.
Well, you're a great champion.
Wow,
Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Jim Stefanich, and now here he is, 23 years old, from Hayward, California, Jim Godman. Jim? Are you happy?
Oh, real happy. Real happy.
Well, let me give you that $25,000.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mr. R.D. Thomas, who is the executive vice president of the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company, he's filling in today for the president, Earl Hathaway. And what a man to have fill in for you, by the way. He has been shouting and cheering so much out here during the week that he's practically lost his voice. But, Bob, you're a champion. I know you'll be able to come up with a few words in presenting the trophy. Bob?
Thanks, Chris, and congratulations, Jim. You did a great job of bowling, and we're proud to have you as a champion.
Thank you.
Sorry about the boys.
Nice going, Bob. You and your staff have done a tremendous job here, and I know that you and your wife are extremely happy. Let's bring her out here because she's a lot better looking than you.
You're right there.
Sandy, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What are your plans now? A little time off?
Oh, we have about a week off, then we got to go to Mobile to bowl. Have to bowl National Pro-Am there.
All right. Go have fun and spend the money right now.
Okay.
Okay, we have to go. Goodbye, Jim, and congratulations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is our final telecast on the Professional Bowlers Tour for 1969, and ABC Sports will again look forward to bringing you another great season of pro bowling action beginning next January. Until then, this is Chris Schenkel along with Billy Whalou, expressing our thanks to the Professional Bowlers Association, its Executive Director, Eddie Elias, and the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company for their cooperation on today's telecast. Prize monies furnished by the PBA and Firestone. The executive producer of the Professional Bowlers Tour is Roone Arledge. Today's telecast was produced by Ned Steckel and directed by Mike Friedman, Associate Director Jim Jeanette, Technical Director Walt Kubelis. With the finest bowlers in the world, you have seen the $100,000 Firestone Tournament of Champions live and in color from Riviera Lanes in Akron on the Professional Bowlers Tour.